All right. We've got a very special guest right now I'd like to introduce. I actually met him on Facebook, actually, which I'll talk to you a little bit about Facebook later on. I connect with a lot of Allstate guys, insurance agents on Facebook, and I read a little bit about him. Didn't know him, and he was. It really inspired me. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it right now, but I'll let him tell you his story and a little bit more about him. But it's if everybody would just welcome local Allstate agent here in Chicago, Joe Schneider.
Thanks, Josh. First and foremost, I just want to thank Bill and Josh for giving me the opportunity to come up here and share my story with you guys. My name is Joe Schneider. I'm an Allstate agent just like you. Actually, I started off with State Farm Insurance. I was an outside homeowners adjuster in Virginia. That's where I'm from originally. Did that for about 4 years. And then I hopped on the Allstate CAT team for a year. Traveled around the U.S., met my wife. Figured if the relationship was going to go anywhere, I definitely needed to get off the road. So I found the first job that I could. That was an employee agent with Liberty Mutual. Did that for a year in Virginia. Then I transferred out to Chicago. 2005, I put up my shingle, opened up a scratch agency in downtown Chicago. First 3 years were fantastic. We were rocking and rolling. National conference all 3 years. Then the last 2 years have been challenging, to say the least. In Illinois, we've been hit with back-to-back rate increases. Combine that with the foreclosures, and it's been quite a challenge. My hope is that by sharing my story, it'll kind of put some of the adversity that we as Allstate agents face into perspective. When I was 18 years old, I was a freshman in college at the University of Richmond in Virginia. I had emergency appendectomy, and the doctors discovered a golf ball-sized tumor attached to my appendix. I was diagnosed with Burkitt's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's a rare and fast-growing cancer. Doctors indicated that had they not found that tumor, I could have been dead within a week. Instead, I was given a chance to participate in a clinical research trial at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. Over the course of the next 2.5 months, I was administered the same amount of chemotherapy that most patients receive in 2 years. I lived in a hospital bed. I lost all my hair. I lost nearly 50 pounds. I couldn't walk, and I had to be fed through a catheter. But I survived. I'm now cancer-free with a beautiful wife and child. Thank you. Thank you. So the big question is, how did I get from there to standing here in front of you all today? Well, 16 years ago, I had just finished treatment. I was bald, skinny, had a catheter sticking out of my chest, and to top it all off, I had to move back in with mom and dad. You know, on one hand, I wanted to assimilate and get back to the way my life was prior to cancer. But it just really wasn't a realistic expectation. In 1994, cancer was a dirty word. You didn't talk about it. They called it the big C. Personally, emotionally, I was in a very dark place in my life. The National Institutes of Health, where I was treated, they asked me to come up and share my experience with the kids on the cancer floor. Just give them some hope and some inspiration. I couldn't do it. I tried, but I failed. I had this overwhelming sense of guilt. I felt guilty that these kids were still going through their treatment, and I had finished mine. A couple things happened in my life that completely changed my perspective. I remember hearing about this guy who had beaten cancer, and he went on to win some bike race in France. Now, at the time, I was an avid mountain biker, and we mountain bikers, we didn't care too much for the road bike guys. It seemed like way too much work and not enough fun. A couple years later, he wrote a book, It's Not About the Bike, by Lance Armstrong. Got the book, and I couldn't put the book down. I felt like I could relate to it on every single level. He got it. He understood everything that I went through. Now, did he write that book for me? No, of course not. But he wrote it for people like me who struggled during and after a cancer diagnosis. I'll never forget reading some of the book, and some of the similarities between Lance's story and mine it was just crazy. You know, the fear, the apprehension, the MRIs, the CAT scans, the spinal taps. The book said it was okay to talk about cancer, and the cancer survivors, we need to get off our ass and make a difference. I think Lance called it the obligation of the cured. Fast forward that year, my buddy from high school, Ryan Gascoigne, was diagnosed with cancer. He lost his battle with cancer, and I'll never forget the sermon that the priest gave. He said, life is short, and we need to leave our mark on this world. I'll never forget at the at the Irish Wake, which is a celebration of life involving massive amounts of alcohol. I was talking to some friends, and I told them, I said, you know what? I'm going to do something to honor Ryan. And I took that to heart. And I think half my friends probably thought it was the alcohol talking. But I did. I went out and I signed up for a fundraiser for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society called America's Most Beautiful Bike Ride. Now, I'm laughing because it's called America's Most Beautiful Bike Ride, but it should be called America's Most Grueling Bike Ride that just happens to have a pretty view. Because what it is, it's a century bike ride around Lake Tahoe. And if you don't know what a century is, that's 100 miles on the bike in one day. And if you've ever been to Lake Tahoe, you know, there's some hills and some climbs there that my car struggled to get over. And I'm going to do this thing on my bike. But I did it. I finished that ride. And it was one of the most amazing times of my life. I mean, it was one of the most grueling things that I've ever done. But it was also one of the most rewarding. And I'll never forget coming down that final hill into town. And I had to pull over the side of the road because I was overcome with emotion. I was happy. I was sad. You know, I was happy that I had beaten cancer, and it seems like I had finally come to terms with my own survivorship. But I was sad that Ryan wasn't there to share it with me. And I was sad that my aunt was battling leukemia at the time. But that ride, it really changed my life forever. It opened my eyes to a world of giving back and making a difference. 2 years later, in 2004, this little yellow band popped up, Livestrong. It's one word, but for me it was much more than that. It became a way of life. The beauty of Livestrong is that the word itself is universal. It has different meanings for different people. For me, it's a constant reminder that we need to make the most of our life here. You know, I get stressed just like everybody else, but then I look down at the band, and I remember the boy in the hospital bed next to me who had the same type of cancer that I did, but died of his infections. I remember Ryan and my Aunt Joan, who ultimately lost her battle with cancer. Then a funny thing happens. It's called perspective. I have my health. I have my wife. We have our beautiful daughter. You know, didn't get that sale you wanted, not enough auto, because I think Allstate's pushing auto, aren't they? You know, it just doesn't matter. I'm a firm believer that complaining and stressing, it's just wasted energy, and it's energy that can be put together for a better use. Now, I know some of you, you may not be the biggest Lance fans out there, and that's fine, because Livestrong's not a person. It's a movement. It's a grassroots, unified group of people working together for a greater cause. 600,000 Americans die every year from cancer. 1,500 Americans die every single day. That's a 9/11 every 2 days. Globally, 28 million people are living with cancer, and 22,000 people die every day. That's more than AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria combined. Now, late last year, I had the honor and privilege of speaking and introducing Lance Armstrong at the Livestrong Global Summit in Dublin, Ireland. It was an amazing gathering of over 500 people representing nearly 70 countries. I tell you this because clearly cancer is not an American issue or a European issue or an Asian issue. Cancer is a global issue. Since 2002, when I got off my butt and started a ride for Ryan, I've been very lucky and fortunate to have raised close to $50,000 for various cancer nonprofits. I've lobbied on Capitol Hill for the last 4 years with Lance Armstrong and other cancer survivors. I completed a 500-mile bike ride with Team Livestrong, and I've completed 3 triathlons for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. You know, the last couple of days we've been talking about money and success, and those are absolutely fantastic things that we all want. But what I've come to find out is that what really makes life important and special and amazing are experiences. And by experiences, I mean the things that money can't buy. You know, whether it's watching your son or daughter graduate high school or you know, just playing catch in the backyard or sharing a special moment at home with a loved one. When I first realized this, I started to make a list of things that I wanted to do before I die. Right now, they range from teaching our daughter how to ride a bike. She's 2 now, so I got a ways to go. Hopefully, someday I want to catch a foul ball at a baseball game. I want to go skydiving, cross-country motorcycle ride. I have all these experiences that I want to do. You know, there are no guarantees in life, and cancer is the reason that I live such a rich and fulfilling life. But it's very important that we just remember that our time, it could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be next week. And it's so very important that we cherish every day, every minute, and every second that we have on this earth. Thank you.